Welcome to Working and Wondering.
My name's Chris. I'm one of your hosts.
And I'm Martha, and we're also Venturesome Couple.
And here we are again, podcast number 5. What is this one all about?
So this one is if you're traveling with your pets abroad and you're coming back into the U.S., you're going to need to know this. This starts August 1st of 2024.
Yep. We get 3 episodes in, and they already change it on us.
This is episode 5.
I know. That's what I'm saying. By the time 4 was done, we're already... Everything said, got to change again. So let's go through all the changes that are needed as of August 1st, 2024. This is going to pertain to you if you're planning on traveling into Alaska or back out of Alaska, a.k.a. in and out of Canada, because this directly applies to coming into the U.S. Now, it doesn't have to be Canada. It can be Mexico. It could be other borders.
Absolutely. So in this... one of our Venturesome Tribe members had reached out to us through social media and let us know, hey, this update is happening and please talk about it.
Yeah, this one is a big deal because there's some fairly serious changes that would stop you from being able to bring in specifically like the dog. Talk about the chipping.
Oh, so on here, we noticed that your dog has to be microchipped now. Like for us, Callie is microchipped, but what if you have a younger dog or an older dog that you decided not to microchip? And is it cost effective? Right. You know what I mean?
Now it's an absolute requirement. As of August, all dogs have to be microchipped. And go ahead and read specifically what it says so that we make sure that we give them the right verbiage.
Okay, so requirement for all dogs. They must be at least 6 months of age at the time of entry or return to the United States.
They have to have an implanted International Organization for Standardization, ISO compliant microchip that has to be implanted prior to any rabies vaccines. So it's very nuanced of like when this has to be done. Get with your veterinarian well in advance so you could say when this gets done so you know the timing's right. The other thing it says the microchip number must be documented on all forms and in all accompanying veterinarian records. So again, get with your vet early so you can get the timing right and to get the documentation correct.
Yeah, and appear healthy upon arrival. Dogs may not enter the U.S. if they're carrying a disease contagious to people. Isolation of the dog, veterinarian examination, and additional testing are at the importer's expense. It may be required to determine if the dog has a contagious disease and prevent this if the dog does not appear to be healthy upon arrival.
Have a CDC import form. Now, this is a formalized thing, but we've always had to have a veterinarian certificate of health, basically. Now they actually have a CDC, so Center for Disease Control form that has to be done within 2 days to 10 days before your arrival. However, it can also be completed in line right before you travel. Here's our recommendation. Don't do that. Don't wait last second to do this.
Especially because veterinary offices are booked. So recently, actually yesterday, we're in Indiana, and we had to take our dog to the vet because she had a little...
like a rash?
Like a rash or a bump right next to her nose that may look cancerous, but we took her into an urgent care because all the vets around here were booked out for weeks.
Yeah. And just know, please use common sense when you're reading through the Center for Disease Control.gov, which is where we're getting all this information from. There's a thing that I just caught. All forms should be filled out online, ideally 2 to 10 days before arrival. However, it can also be completed right before travel. If it's supposed to be done 2 days to 10 days before, why are you doing it in line? So just know that if somebody's being picky, they could say, well, this was done today, not 2 days. Stick to 2 days out as a minimum. You'll be safe. All information, including port of entry where the dog is arriving, must be correct at the time of arrival. Where that's really important is when you go to your vet and you have the certificate of health or CDC form done, you have to tell them, I'm going to go through Abbotsford, and then my point of entry back into the United States is going to be Tok, Alaska, or Haines if you're going in on the ferry, or Seward, wherever you plan on going. Make sure you know that well in advance. So if you're a wing it kind of family like us, this isn't a good time to wing it.
No. That's where it's good to plan ahead. And this form requires you to upload a clear photograph of your dog showing its face and body. And dogs that will be less than 1 year of age at the time of arrival should have the photograph taken 10 days before arrival. Now, we know like Callie, she grows quickly. Her breed?
That's because she eats too much.
She's a rottweiler.
She loves her some food. And of course, the documentation varies depending on where the dog has been in the last 6 months. So think about that. If you were hanging out in Baja, right, kicking it down in Mexico, you came through California, went up to Abbotsford, went through Washington, entered Canada, and then into the U.S., your forms might look significantly different because you might have went from Mexico to the U.S. to Canada to the U.S. So please, please, please do some research on this. This is typical government forms. It's going to be complicated.
And there's no charge to importers for submitting this form either. So that's important to know.
Well, yeah, it's free. It's just going to be complex. So,
and we've mentioned before, like always have all your dog's physical records with you.
Yeah.
Have a current copy from your vet. We travel with that, which is what I brought with us to the urgent care for Callie last night, and it was so much more helpful. And then they're going to email all the records that they, what they see with Callie back to our vet.
Right. And it's good to travel with those forms. I mean, we keep the rabies certificate. We have the little tag that goes on our collar. We have all of her vaccinations, her health records. We keep like paper copies, like old school paper copies. We don't want anything digital. Internet's too spotty at times.
Well, and just to be clear, we do have digital copies in case those get lost or damaged, but always keep paper copies because you may not have reliable internet.
Right. So there's a requirement on here for dogs with a current and valid rabies vaccination administered in the United States. It says that there's specific requirements depending on whether the dog has been in a high-risk country for rabies, which they have a link here that talks about where the high-risk countries are within the 6 months. Kind of goes back to that whole Mexico to America, or to the United States to Canada, back to the United States. Don't know if Mexico's on that list. I'm not going to click on that one right now. But they have to meet all requirements, and they're very specific about that, and that's a change. It hasn't been this complex in the past.
No, because before we were able to go to a local vet nearby, have them sign off on Callie. We had our vet records, and it was not required to have her chipped. I mean, she's always been chipped, but
yeah.
Wow.
The certification of U.S. issued rabies vaccine form has to be endorsed by a USDA, so United States Drug Administration, before the dog departed the United States. So the certification for the U.S. issued rabies vaccination form is required for the importation reentry of U.S. vaccinated dogs that have been in high-risk countries for rabies. So as you can see, depending on where you go, what you do, this is going to get really dicey on our whole purpose behind this really is just to make sure you guys know at least the highlights of everything that we see on this and how it'll impact you so that you don't get stuck at the border and your pooch being impounded and put in puppy jail while you work through the details.
Yeah, and at your vet's office or wherever you go for this, if another vet's office, ask for paper copies. I always ask for 2 copies.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, we keep one in the RV, one in the truck.
So they've got a little checklist here. So this is, I like this. You want to start with the first one on the checklist right there, and then I'll hit the second one.
All right. So 60 days before travel out of the United States. Number 1, verified dog will be at least 6 months old on day of travel back to the United States.
That's important. So like with Callie, my dad brought Callie from Alaska.
Or from California to Alaska.
So, but it was on an airplane. But if he would have driven and she was weaned, she wouldn't have been 6 months old.
Yeah, she was 8 weeks.
Right. So by the time she got to Alaska, it would have been 10 weeks, right? Too young, doesn't meet the requirement. Second requirement now, get your pet microchipped or have your veterinarian verify their microchip number. Make sure the microchip number is listed on all veterinarian records. That's new because I know Callie's is not.
Yeah, and I do keep up to date with the microchip company, our address and phone number and everything. It's very important. Make sure, and we pay for that update too.
I was going to say they charge you. That it is not free. So we have to go on to Home Again, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and then pay for it there.
And we just verify it. I have it in my calendar, and an email reminds me. So, and it's a small price to pay.
It's every couple of years too, isn't it? I mean, it's not like something that's a monthly type thing.
So visit your veterinarian to get your dog their rabies vaccination or booster before travel.
That's important. Your dog must be at least 12 weeks, 84 days old when it gets its first rabies vaccination. So it goes back to that weaning thing. So timing is really important.
Yeah. And make sure your dog's rabies vaccination will be valid, not expired, for the entire duration of travel.
All right. So now they've got then like I said, this checklist continues.
Well, let's talk about that for a second because that may put a damper in traveling.
That's true. Because if it's going to expire 45 days and you're going to be gone 90.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're going to like Alaska, where you're going to be spending, 3 months or 4 months up there for the summer, and you come back out of Alaska and you go into Canada. Canada may not give you a problem, and then you go back to get into the U.S. in the lower 48, and then all of a sudden you're expired. Now you're kind of in a pickle. You'd probably have to go over and get the vaccine done somewhere in Canada.
Yeah, Chris and I, whenever Callie gets her shots and her vaccine and all that, and it tells you right on the certificate like when her next one is. So we'll put a calendar reminder in there in like 30 days out. Yeah. Just so we can make sure we schedule her appointment.
If it's not in writing, it ain't going to happen.
If it's not in the calendar, it's not happening.
Not with us, for sure. So 30 days before travel, they have additional requirements. So it said, again, contact your veterinarian to have them complete either the certification of U.S.-issued rabies vaccination form or the USDA-endorsed export health certificate if your dog will be only in dog rabies-free or low-risk countries and will be returned from the country listed on the certificate, or that the documents of valid rabies vaccination issued United States. If your dog will be in a high-risk country, this option is available during the transition period. Holy frickin' balls, Batman. That is a lot. So
apologize for that little music. It just means laundry is done.
Yeah, in my ear while we were talking. So let me break down that word vomit. You either have to have the health certificate from the USDA or you have to have proof of rabies vaccination. Typical government, 500 words to say 10. Keep going. This goes 2 to 10 days now. Yeah,
2 to 10 days before travel back to the U.S., print a copy of the certification of U.S. issued rabies vaccination form or USDA APHIS endorsed export health certificate from the USDA. Ooh, that's a mouthful.
I got the easy one on this one. Take a picture of your dog.
Yes, you got to take a photo of your dog and complete the CDC dog import form.
It sounds like your damn dog has to have a passport now, right? Like you have to have a photo. You have to have a form. You have to have vaccinations. You have to have proof of residency, darn near.
Yeah, and the form requires you to upload a picture, like a JPEG, PNG, GIF files only, of your dog showing its face and body.
Yeah, and if your dog is less than 10 days old, or less than, what? Go ahead.
Year.
Oh, I skipped ahead. Words are difficult. If your dog's less than 1 year old, you have to take the picture within 10 days of travel. So that means anything between 6 months and 1 year, you have to have the photo done within 10 days because they said less than 6 months, they don't want you bringing your pooch back.
Well, and that should be easy for all dog owners. Don't we take pictures of our pets all the time?
She selfies with her.
And Callie girl, she has her own Instagram account.
She's a model.
So ensure you enter your dog's microchip number into this form correctly. This is very important.
Yeah, I could see that being a problem. You'd be like, your dog is a 2-year-old tabby?
If some of those, like if it's on the little tag or whatever, just take a picture of it and then zoom that picture in just to make sure it's clear. And that's always good to have just a copy and keep that in your favorites in your photo roll.
Yeah, or pull out your readers like Martha and I do because we've reached that age.
We have, and we share readers because we're that cute old couple now.
I love the idea of the picture, though. I mean, honestly, some of the writing is so stinking small on things. And if it's like our tag is a plastic yellow on yellow, it's so hard to see it. And if you do snap that picture and zoom in, it does make it way easier.
And it's not like the pets get into stuff or play around too much or walk and those little tags come loose and fall and you lose them.
That never happens.
And you can order extra tags.
And then, of course, 2 to 10 days out, print a copy of your CDC dog import form receipt. You will receive an email and travel with it.
Yeah. And then submit a corrected form if any of the information on this form changes.
Yes, that is really important.
Because we know things can change.
And, of course, 2 to 10 days out, finalize all travel arrangements with the airline or transport company that you're going to be going through. Or if it's you are the transport company, just make sure you have all your forms printed, everything done as much as you can. And clearly things are changing constantly. So I would say 2 to 10 days out, I would go back not only into the Canadian website, make sure nothing's changed here. I would also go back to the CDC or the USDA websites and make sure nothing's changed here, because inevitably things get amended and you don't want to get caught by surprise or, in my case, detained and pay way too much money.
Yeah. And the CDC recommends you travel with at least 2 copies of this form in case the country you are visiting keeps 1 copy for their records. you will need to present this form for re-entry into the United States. So that goes back to what I said, keep at least 2 copies. So since they're asking for 2, have 3, maybe 4.
What I would recommend is 2 copies for every border crossing. That's the safe way. So if we're going to go back to what we were saying, we're going in through Washington, have 2 copies for Abbotsford going into Canada. So if you're going from Canada to Tok, have 2 copies for Tok. When you leave Tok and come back into Canada, 2 copies there. When you leave Canada, come back into the U.S. in Abbotsford, make sure you have 2 copies there. So a safe bet would be 8 copies. At the end of the day, the worst case scenario is you have 4 of them when you're done.
Yes. And if you don't travel with a printer like us, for the most part, Chris and I, we don't have a printer with us.
No.
We did, but it died.
Too
much bouncing around.
Yeah, too much wiggling.
But you can always go to like FedEx, Kinko. You can go to
the UPS store.
Yeah, UPS store. You can pay to have copies. You can ask a veterinarian, can you print me a couple extra copies? And they're always happy to when I ask. Now, if you're traveling by air, present the following to the airline before boarding your dog. And this is day of travel back to the U.S.
Okay.
So a CDC dog import form receipt and certification of U.S. issued rabies vaccination from or USDA APHIS endorsed export health certification or certificate.
And honestly, I would have both. I would have your rabies form and I would have your health certificate, because that way, if you run into somebody that's having a bad day and they're being real sticklers, you can say, here's my photo, here's my CDC health form, here's my rabies certificate, good to go.
Or if their system is like lagging or their computer's acting up, I mean,
that would never happen.
Right? Especially
never. Only if you know Murphy like we do.
And then you'll want to arrive at the location on CDC dog import form receipt and present the following to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Officer. So CDC dog import form receipt and certification of U.S. issued rabies vaccination form or USDA APHIS endorsed export health certificate.
So I think we could have saved everybody a headache and said, okay, here's your 4 things you need: a photo, a rabies certificate, the verification form, and make sure you meet the deadlines. Now, this gets a little more complex. There is actually travel checklist for foreign vaccinated dogs. So this gets even a little hairier, right? So you go down to Mexico, you find that really cute pooch on the beach, and you want to adopt them. Guess what? You've got a process that you have to follow that is significantly different. Make sure you go in and check that out on the CDC website. We're not going to go through everything on that. Just know that if it's coming from a high-risk country, there's definitely a lot more that has to be done by that country before you leave with your pet.
Yeah, and longer time frames, like 6 months before entry. I mean, there's a lot of stipulations on there. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to stick this link down below in the description and comments.
So there'll be 2 of them. And for those of you listening on the podcast, the 2 websites we're referring to, of course, is the cdc.gov. The other one is inspection.canada.ca. And they both have bringing animals to Canada and importing and traveling with pets. And it talks about the U.S.'s CDC link, and that's on there. So inspection.canada.ca and cdc.gov. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what types of animals are on the watch list. You have dogs, cats, hybrid dog or cat. Basically, it says wild wolf dog or wild cat mix. You've got ferrets.
Amphibians and reptiles, for example, like salamanders, frogs, toads, newts.
Birds, fish, aquatic pets.
Fox, horse.
Fox? Who the hell's bringing a fox in?
Someone who wants to know what the fox says.
Oh, you don't want me doing that. It sounds awful. All right, we got horse, pigs, poultry.
Primates.
So chicken.
Yeah, primates.
No drug dealing monkeys. I've seen those movies.
Like the Hangover.
I saw those movies, drug dealing ones. All right, you got
rabbits, raccoons.
Rodents, so guinea pigs, hamsters, mice, chinchillas.
Sheep and goats.
This one is the next one. I don't get it. A skunk.
Yep.
Well, hold on. If you're watching this on YouTube, heck, if you're listening to this on the podcast, put some comments. I want to know, why would you have a pet skunk? And we might miss something. We may not know. Maybe they take out the stinky gland. I don't know, but I want to know, why in the world would you have a pet skunk?
Why would you have Pepe Le Pew?
It's a pretty kitty.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there's more. Keep going.
Let's see. Other organisms, for example, scorpions, spiders, butterflies, insects.
Or none of the above. which why would you be on this page if it's none of the above?
So, and this is the inspection.canada.ca. So there's going to be a drop down on here.
So
and you put what type of animal are you importing with you for traveling? So we selected dog. The next question is, what is the purpose of the dog entering Canada? And there's personal pet, assistance dog, like traveling with your certified assistance dog, and commercial for like sale, adoption, fostering, breeding, expedition, research.
Exhibition.
Oh, expedition.
Dog show.
See, I don't have my readers on.
It's way closer to me. So it's for their only paws.
Oh my gosh.
Wrong kind of exhibition.
Yes. And how old will your dog be when you arrive in Canada? The selection is less than 3 months, older than 3 months, but less than 8, or 8 months or older.
Click on that. Let's see what pops up because mine's not showing up on the iPad.
Okay. So I'm using the MacBook.
There you go.
All right. So what country are you coming from? So I'm going to select the United States.
Click on Mexico. I'm really curious on that one. All right, go U.S. We're talking about U.S.
We're going to go U.S. because this series is about the Alaska series. So we're going to kind of talk a little more about going through Canada.
Right. And into the U.S. You're right.
And the next button is continue. So I'm waiting for that page to load. Okay. When you arrive in Canada, you'll need the following: a valid rabies vaccination certificate, and the dog appears healthy and meets human transportation requirements. So they say a personal pet dog is defined as a dog that is intended to live with the owner who is bringing the animal into Canada as a personal pet dog.
There you go.
So it means we're not going to give her away. We're not going to transfer her. She's not going to go breed with another dog. We're not going to sell her.
Right. It's your pet or your service animal going with you. So here's the questions you got to think about. If by chance you're going to be adopting an animal, or you find yourself in a position when you're in Canada that you find the amazing pup that you want to adopt, they have some questions that you need to ask. If it's a breeder, they have to be licensed in Canada, so they need to know that. Is it coming from a rescue organization? Do they have the veterinarian certificates? Because remember, getting back into the U.S. from certain things requires certain certificates. So how do you plan on transporting them? Can I see where the dogs are being housed? So you want to make sure this isn't a puppy mill and they're being treated terribly, which if they are, they ask you to contact the Canadian government, get a hold of the police, let them know. And
then definitely report them.
And there's 5 red flags. So this is for those that might pick up a pooch overseas. They offer to meet you someplace neutral or ship the dog instead of letting you pick it up and see the premises, red flag. So if you're going to meet in the Walmart parking lot, be cautious. They're probably not a breeder.
Yeah.
You can't visit the dog prior to purchase and are not permitted to visit or obtain information about the parents. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And then ask to send money to another country. Scammers, right?
Yes.
You know, just like when you win the lottery from Dubai.
Or somewhere and they misspell words, a lot of punctuation in the email. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep your mouth on the mic, lady. You're fading out.
Heard.
Okay. They don't ask about your experience with dogs or your lifestyle. Basically, they don't care about you as an owner. That's a concern, right? Like any reputable place, we had to do paperwork and do all kinds of stuff for our babies.
Yes, we did. We had to meet with them and yeah.
Yeah. And they don't provide any document or veterinarian records and offer no health guarantee or return policy. So those are the 5 red flags. I know you're not necessarily going to pick up another pet overseas, but just something to think about if you do find yourself in a position where you want to have a dog coming from Canada.
Well, and the other part too, if you're going through Canada to Alaska and you adopt a pet there, so the rules are going to apply when you're coming back through. Mm-hmm. The microchip,
the picture,
rabies vaccination, yeah, all the certificates, everything. So,
and then we haven't even touched on all the other critters that we mentioned. So something to think about. Just know that this new rule is going to make things a little more complex and that there's going to be a lot more requirements up front in advance, that it is going to take some planning. Like Martha said, when we were trying to get Callie in, we had to take her over to the urgent care yesterday because the other places are 3 to 4 weeks out. So if you try to do this 10 days out, odds are you're not going to get in, or you're going to end up in a pet hospital or an urgent care. And, you know, like the one we went to yesterday in Indiana, they charge you $100 to walk in the front door no matter what.
Yes, and it was $100 well worth it, and that was pretty inexpensive.
Oh yeah, because we've had it happen in California. It was like $250 to walk in the front door, so $100 wasn't bad. But just know you got to plan way ahead in this. And I would also keep an eye on the Canadian. website, I wonder if the Canadian government might not follow suit. It's a possibility, right? Like the U.S. CDC has obviously seen or has concerns why they're changing this policy. Canada may be following suit with that.
Could be. Now, keep in mind, too, if you don't meet the compliance of it, they may not let you through. May not let your dog through.
They may not let your dog through. You might be able to, but let's be real. None of us are leaving our dogs.
No. And if a personal pet dog cannot be vaccinated against rabies for documented medical reasons, there is a waiver for that.
Oh, that's good to know. So, like, if your dog has diabetes for whatever reason, and they say that they can't have it, that would be a good.
Yeah, but and it's on this website too. So I don't want to dive too deep in that.
Yeah. Well, this is all really good information. I'm definitely glad that our Venturesome tribe and our family stepped up and said, hey, you got to look at this. I mean, they say right here in bold on here, dogs that do not meet all entry requirements or do not have accurate or valid forms will be denied entry into the United States and returned to the country of departure at the importer's expense. These requirements apply to all dogs, including service dogs and dogs that were born in the United States. So if you go Alaska, Canada, and you're in Canada and you're trying to get back into California or Washington or wherever your destination is at the border, they're not going to let you back in. They're serious. That means the dog goes back to Canada. Then you're in a pickle, right? Because Canada doesn't want your dog because you're not a resident there either.
Yeah, so definitely research the websites, the CDC and then the Inspection Canada CA.
Yep. That is the updates for the dogs and pets. This is a good one. I'm glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, this kind of surprised me, but then again, there's always updates. So
that's what we talk about in the first 4 episodes is check, constantly check, because what we think might be latest and greatest and accurate information may not be. And they could have this and we missed it. So
yeah, and definitely you don't want your trip delayed at all. So plan ahead, plan accordingly, keep checking the website, see if there's any updates, and that's going to make for smooth travels for you and your family.
Absolutely. So what is our next episode? Do we know?
I don't. Let me look at the notes.
This next episode is going to be a blast.
Oh,
Planning activities in Alaska, part 1, hunting, fishing, and depending on how long the video goes, we may actually cover some of the hiking, but we're going to talk about pre-planning a lot of your activities because you're going to see a theme. You can't show up and just expect to be able to do what you want.
You can kind of wing some things, but definitely in the summertime, you have to plan ahead just to make sure you hit some of the highlighted things that you want to do if it's important to you.
Yep. Next Wednesday will be episode 5, or actually it'll be episode 6, and that'll be planning activities in Alaska, part 1. We're going to really focus on the fishing, hunting, and some of the tourism stuff. So you have to come back next Wednesday at 5 p.m.
Yep. I'm so excited because I'm enjoying this Alaska series.
It's been great to get this information out to everybody. We've wanted to do this for a really long time, but trying to do this in a traditional YouTube form didn't make sense. It makes way more sense on a podcast.
Yes. And we love, just so you know, we love traveling through Canada. It is absolutely gorgeous, but there's nothing like Alaska. It makes me homesick doing the Alaska series. Unfortunately, we won't come up to Alaska this summer.
No, it just didn't work out. I got work requirements. They're going to send me back to the West Coast, and we have some Venturesome Couple requirements. They're going to keep us on Central Florida in August, which would have been right smack in the dead in the middle of our trip.
I know.
Next year. 25th anniversary.
Yes.
Woot woot.
We're excited. So we're definitely in the back planning our trip already next year.
Yeah. All right. Have a great time. Thank you very much for listening and or watching.
Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget, like and subscribe. Ring that little bell so you know when our videos come out. And if you're wondering, we're going to drop our tour video of our brand new Alliance Delta travel trailer very soon.
This week.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy every moment.